Welcome one and all, ladies and gentlemen, to Mr. Manta Science class. Welcome on back. I hope everyone has had an enjoyable and a relaxing spring break. Hope you enjoyed your time off. Hope you didn't sleep in too late. I'm sure some of you did, though. And I hope that at least a little part of you missed having class and missed having our video lessons that we've been doing these past few weeks. We are going to kick things off today, coming back from spring break, with a brand new unit and a new video lesson. But before we jump right into that, I do want to mention just some changes to online learning to kind of get everyone on the same page. Figured this is a good time to make a few adjustments since we've been doing this for a few weeks now, and I think I have some ideas about how to do it better. And I want to get everyone on the same page about that. So first of all, today, starting this very lovely day, we are starting a new unit, which is very exciting. So we're leaving behind the stuff we did on energy and light, though a lot of those ideas will be important to us moving forward, and starting a new unit today. I'll tell you just what it is in a second. Second of all, moving forward, we're going to be making a lot more use of videos from our friends over at Crash Course. We've seen a few of them in class before. They look like this. There's a host, this lovely woman named Sabrina, is going to be kind of my co-teacher of these next few weeks, and we're going to be learning from her all about the new material in our unit going forward. We're going to be using a lot more of those videos. And third, that I'm going to incorporate in our video lessons a lot more self-quizzing moving forward, and less often are we going to have independent readings or questions to answer after the lessons are over. Since, as I mentioned at the very end of our last unit, self-quizzing is a really good technique to use to help cement one's learning, to help remember and learn things even faster. So we're going to have little independent practice sessions at the end of most of these video lessons to kind of self-quiz on the material, and less independent reading to do instead. Those are just some of the changes that are going to happen. Mostly things are going to stay the same, though, moving forward. Since it's been a while, I want to make sure everyone's actually ready to begin their video lesson today and is prepared with the materials that they need. You should have, one, a laptop or a tablet that you're watching this video on. Well, if you're watching the video, obviously you must have that. Two, you should have your science notebook where you are taking notes on the material that we are going over. And third of all, of course, a pen or a pencil to take notes on. Coffee, that's going to be optional. If you've got those three things, you are good to go. And I want to give a quick reminder before jumping into the material that in order to be counted complete for today's work, to earn dollars instead of losing them, each day you must do at least these two things. First of all, complete the classwork questions on Google Classroom, which get graded for effort. So the classwork questions always look like this. The form usually just says, classwork question 1 and classwork question 2. You have to watch these videos to find out what the questions actually are, and then answer them in those spaces right there. That's the classwork session. And then the second thing you always have to do is to complete the exit ticket, which is always the green form, and it usually looks something like this. So always those two things, the classwork questions, the blue form, and the exit ticket, the green form, in order to be counted complete. And some days, not as often going forward, but some days there will still be independent readings and a form with some questions to fill out for that as well. All right, now, without further ado, I want to welcome each and every one of you to Unit 6. We are finally, ladies and gentlemen, going to have our unit all about chemistry. Ah, yeah. Go crazy. Woo, things are exploding, right? This is probably what a few of you are picturing in your heads when you're hearing that we are having a chemistry unit. Now, I know that a lot of people are excited. A lot of people have been waiting all year for science class to finally be some of this going on right here, because all the way back at the start of the year, when I asked you guys to draw a picture, all the way back in August, look at that. When I asked you guys to draw a picture of what you imagine when you think of science, a lot of people drew something like this, like what Miss Jemiah Vaughn drew for me here. This is a picture, let's see, Mr. Manta up at the front of the classroom wearing my protective goggles, and some student, I guess, freaking out because there was a desk up here, and I poured together some bottles that were blue, red, and green, and it caused a giant explosion. And that's probably what you think of when you typically think of chemistry. Well, I have to kind of address this kind of elephant in the room, since we are going into this chemistry unit now, and I know a lot of you folks have been waiting all year to be learning a little bit about chemical reactions. I want you to hold your horses for just a second. Yes, we were going to get to some of these chemical reactions, but first, I want to be very clear about a couple things. First of all, the point of chemistry isn't just to mix chemicals and watch them react. It's really to explain why chemical reactions react how they do. How come sometimes when you mix chemicals they explode, sometimes they change color, sometimes they become solid or liquid, or they make a bunch of bubbles? It's about understanding what's going on inside the different substances or different chemicals that make them react in the way that they do. We don't just do it for fun, we do it to figure out what's going on inside of these different substances. Second of all, yes, we will get to, in this unit, see some crazy, far-out chemical reactions, but chemistry really has to start with the everyday stuff that's around you. Chemistry isn't just the study of, what we usually think of as chemicals, acid and explosives and all that kind of crazy stuff. Chemistry really can be the study of everyday stuff as well. Things like the pencil that you're holding in your hand right now, or the desk that you are sitting at. Chemistry can be the study of the ham sandwich that you maybe had for lunch today. It can be the very study of the air that you are breathing at this moment. Chemistry studies all of these things. It doesn't just study, chemicals in beakers that mix and change color and explode. All right, that brings us to, for today, classwork question 1 that you're going to answer in that blue form. With the first question being, how do you feel about our new unit being chemistry? Pause the video and answer this first in your notebook or directly on the form now. Make sure eventually you answer it in that blue classwork form. Pause the video, do so now. And alright, I'm bringing you back, assuming you've written down your answer somewhere. I'm curious to see how people feel about this unit. Now, you might at this point be wondering, well, why, Mr. Manta, are we starting with this everyday stuff, like pencils and desks and whatever, instead of talking just about chemicals right away? This is a key point for today, so note it down in your notes. We're starting with everyday stuff because all matter is made of chemicals. All matter is made of chemicals. You usually hear the word chemical and you think of like really dangerous stuff like acids or things that can explode, but really all matter is made of chemicals. Yes, including your pencil and your desk and even your ham sandwich and the air that is around you that you're breathing right now. Heck, even you are made of chemicals. People are made of chemicals. Chemicals is it's a way of thinking about anything that's made of matter. And then from that question, if you're a inquisitive student, you might be wondering, well, Mr. Manta, though, what is matter? You might be scratching your head and thinking like this dude over here, this baseball player. What's matter? Well, in order to answer that question, today we're going to jump to our first of all, that's today's big question, and we're going to jump to our very first crash course video. All right, I'm going to pull the video up. You should be able to hear it just fine if you're able to hear this video. I'm going to watch along with me, and we will recap afterwards because she goes pretty quick. There's our crash course video number 1. What is matter?
Hey, what's matter? No, not what's the matter. Obviously, since you're here with me, you're pretty awesome at the moment. You might have heard that everything is made of matter, and that's true. You, soccer balls, iPads, even your pet Fluffy, all made of matter. So that's interesting. But what is matter exactly? The scientific answer is matter is anything that has weight and takes up space. You already know about weight, right? That's just how heavy something is. Like if you've ever been to a doctor's office, the first thing they do is have you stand on the scale so they can measure how much you weigh. As for taking up space, another way of thinking about it is that all matter has volume. It simply fills the area it's in. When you pour water into a glass, for example, the water's volume is the amount of space that it takes up in the glass. So all matter has volume and weight. But it sure doesn't all look the same. Well, that's because matter comes in different forms, or states. Liquids are a state of matter that I'm sure you're familiar with. If you've ever poured yourself a drink while trying to watch TV, you might have noticed that liquids take up space, because once the space inside your glass is full, right on the carpet. Sorry, Mom. You also know that water has weight if you carry a water bottle. As you drink from it, it gets lighter because you're removing water from it. Solids are matter too, of course, probably the most obvious kind. Rocks are solid, and so is ice, which is just solid water. Soccer balls are solid, iPads, your pet Fluffy, and every single guy in One Direction. And just like rocks, all those things have weight and take up space. Now, you know what's weird? Sometimes matter can't be seen or felt. but it's there. Like the air we breathe. Air is an example of gas, the third main state of matter. And I probably know what you're thinking. How do we know air, or any gas really, is there if we can't see it? Well, we can prove it by doing an experiment. Science. Let's start by asking the question, is air matter? Because if it is, it should take up space and have weight, right? To see if air takes up space, look it, I can easily drop an empty balloon into this little box, but a full one won't fit. That's because the air that fills the space inside the balloon is bigger than the space inside the box. Now, does air have weight? Let's try something else. Take 2 empty balloons and tape them to the ends of a meter stick. Then we'll hang the meter stick on a string so that it's perfectly balanced. Now let's see what happens if we blow up just one of the balloons and put it back on our meter stick. Check it out. The end with the full balloon sinks. It weighs more than the empty balloon because the air gives it extra weight. The balloon full of air will always weigh more than the empty one, because air is matter and matter has weight and takes up space, whether it's a liquid, a solid, or a gas. So listen, the next time someone tells you that something doesn't matter, you can tell them to their face that technically everything is matter. And tell them Sabrina said so.
All right, ladies and gents, this is Mr. Matthew bringing it back. I know Sabrina goes pretty quickly in her videos, so before we move on, we're going to do a quick little recap of what we just learned from that crash course video. There were a few important things that she mentioned, and each of these things I would suggest very highly that you write down in your notes in your science notebook. First of all, we learned that matter is anything that has weight and takes up space. It has to do both of those things to be considered matter. Second of all, we learned that matter has different states that it can be in, including, for example, solids, liquids, and gases. So if an object is solid, that's the state of matter that it's in. So ice cubes are an example of a solid, liquid water is an example of a liquid, and the air that's around you that you breathe is an example of a gas. Matter in each of the different 3 states of matter. Lastly, an important thing that she also talked about is that even air is a kind of matter, because it has weight and it takes up space. Well, if we can't see air, if we can't really touch it, how do we really know that it's matter? Well, we saw that it has weight because they did that experiment where they put a balloon on 2 different ends of this meter stick, and they saw that the balloon that was filled up with air was in fact heavier than the empty balloon. It had more weight because it had more air, so air must have weight. Second of all, they also showed us that air has a volume. It takes up space, and that's because they took a balloon, they filled it up with a bunch of air, and then found that it could no longer fit inside of this box because it was taking up more space. So the 2 questions you always have to ask to figure out, is something matter is, does it have weight, and does it take up space? That might be prompting you to think, I feel like almost everything I can think of has weight and takes up space. Is there anything that isn't matter? To which I would answer, yes. There's actually a whole bunch of stuff that we've talked about in science classes here that isn't matter. Some examples are these things below. So for example, heat is not a kind of matter. Kinetic energy is not a kind of matter. Any dreams that you have or images that you have in your mind. I need my dog to be quiet. Any dreams that you have or images that you have in your mind are not a kind of matter. Gravity is not a kind of matter. Light is not a kind of matter. And the very thoughts that you're having in your head, those are not types of matter either. You could still say that they exist, your thoughts exist, light exists, but they aren't matter, because they don't have weight, and they don't take up space. Alright, pausing there, we're moving on to classwork question 2. So pause the video now and answer this question. Name one example of something that is not matter. You can use the examples I just gave you, or I'd be very cool to see if anyone could think of an example on their own. Pause the video and answer this question now. I'm going to go ahead and bring us back, assuming that you've now answered that question, and carry us on. The last section that we're going to have for today is a bit of independent practice. In order to complete this, you're going to have to take your notebook, whatever page you're taking notes on, and number it 1 through 10. So it should look kind of like this. We're going to have 10 independent practice questions. They're each going to be just a 1-word answer, so you don't need that much space for each of them. You should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to move on, so if you still need to write out those numbers in your notebook, pause the video to do that now. And here, ladies and gentlemen, are your 10 independent practice questions. I'm going to ask you to pause the video and answer them 1 through 10, writing your answers only in your notebook. Pause the video and complete the independent practice now. Alright, I'm bringing us back. Assume that you have now paused the video, attempted your very best to answer each of these 10 questions, because I'm going to show the answers. Here they are. I'm going to ask you to go through your answers that you wrote in your notebook, star any of the ones that you got correct, and X out any of the ones that you got wrong. Anything that has weight and takes up space is called matter. The amount of space taken up by something is called its volume. Water that you pour into a drinking glass is in the state of being a liquid. Ice cubes, which are in the state of being solid. When matter can't be seen or felt, it's probably in the state that we call gas. Matter has weight and takes up space. Air that you blow into a balloon is in the state of being a gas. A balloon that is full of air indeed weighs more than an empty balloon. Matter has weight and takes up space. And rocks on the beach are in the state of being solid. So, go ahead, star the questions that you got correct, and fix the answers that you got wrong. And then the last thing I want to mention is that in today's classwork form, you're going to be checking off all of the answers that you got correct. So that's going to be the last thing you have to do on the classwork form to be counted complete for today. And, ladies and gentlemen, that is all for today. It is exit ticket time. I'm going to go ahead and show you on Google Classroom exactly what it is that you need to do to be counted complete for today, since this is our first time being back at this in a while. And I also want to mention today's cool thing, which is to check out the spring break social hour chat rooms that have been going on. A lot of you have been participating. A lot of folks haven't. That's cool too. But I had all these fun discussion prompts that were up over spring break, and where I learned a whole bunch about what my students' favorite YouTubers are and their favorite musicians and what everyone wants to be in there when they grow up. If you want to answer those questions still, you are totally welcome to. If not, just take a look at some of your friends' answers. There's some interesting stuff on there. To really quickly go through the Google Classroom, when you are looking at Google Classroom, it will look something like this. Today's topic, Monday, April 13th. You probably found our video lesson right here. Again, you need to go to the What's Matter classwork assignment, open up this form, and it will look something like this. I said in the video how to answer classwork question 1 and classwork question 2. And then for this question, you need to go through and look at your independent practice questions and check off any of the ones that you got correct before finally submitting it. You also need to come to the exit ticket assignment right here, click on the form that we got, and answer these questions here. These ones are graded for accuracy. The classwork questions, the blue form, are just graded for effort and completion, and whether or not you're indeed answering the correct questions. And then lastly, that last thing I was talking about was the spring break social hour questions, all these fun chat rooms that I had going over last week. If you want, you have some extra time, you can come find out from your classmates who is their favorite band or musical artist. You could answer, what is your most sacred or precious thing that you own? What do you want to be when you grow up? What would you do if you were the president for a day? Those are a lot of really fun answers that I got from you guys. That's all that we got for today. Hope you're having a good one. Take care and talk to you tomorrow.